Chris Johnson has an interesting question. I just turned 30. I did a lot of growing up and learning to think in my 20s. Congratulations, Chris, you're ahead of the curve there. I want to keep getting better in my 30s. What do I have to look forward to, and what should I watch out for on my march to 40? Thank you very respectfully, Chris Johnson. Well, very respectfully to you, Chris. Great question. Thank you. I don't know if I can help you too much because my life has been a little atypical. However, I think what happens to most people over the course of their life is that in your 30s, your 30s are going to determine the rest of your life, because in your 20s and your teens, but especially in your 20s, you have dreams about what you want to do. People are in their 20s and they want to be actors, let's say, or maybe they want to be airline pilots or fighter pilots, or maybe they want to be internet celebrities or internet commentators, whatever the dream is, whatever it is. And you can maintain that dream through your 20s. I'm speaking very generally here, but it's a general question. You can maintain that dream through the 20s, your 20s. But by the time you get to 30, if it's not working by this point, you will know it, because you've already dedicated, I almost said wasted, but it's not a waste, but I almost said that. You've already sunk a whole decade of your life, in fact, one of the prime decades of your life, into following this dream. And if it's not working, by the time you're in your 30s, you'll know. Conversely, if it is working, you'll know too, and that's a lovely feeling. So the 30s, I think, are a time when people tend to have to make a decision, a permanent decision, about what they're going to settle for versus what they originally thought they were going to get. And that doesn't always have to be bad. Sometimes you meet the person of your dreams much later in life. You might be, who knows, 50, 60, 70, who knows. It can happen late in life, but generally speaking, you're going to be looking to get married and all the benefits that brings and all the rest of it. And what I'm trying to say here is, Chris, is your 30s, think of your 30s as wet cement. I'm just making this up as I go along, but it sounds like it kind of makes sense. Think of your 30s as wet cement that is getting harder every year. It's starting to set, and you can still move around, but every minute that cement gets harder and drier, and your options get more and more limited. So, if you're on the path of a dream you had as a younger person, you should know by the time you're in your early 30s whether or not this is working or not. And if it's not working, then you can either reevaluate the dream, figure out what you did wrong, stick with it. That's what I did. I didn't take my own advice here. I just stuck with it because I just didn't know what else to do. But most people face that moment of confronting the fact that their life is not going to be what they hoped it would be. And that usually happens in your 30s. I'm going to fix this too. It's bugging me a little bit. Hey, I think that's really it. Your 30s are really your first adult decade too, Chris. If you're making, you already, it's very clear to me, you've got nothing to worry about. Just the person who would have the kind of reflection to say that I did a lot of growing up and learning in my 20s, and now how do I get to my 30s? Somebody who's got the wisdom, the maturity, the humility, the confidence, frankly, the confidence to ask a question like that. I'm not worried about you at all. It's the people that don't think about these things that I'm worried about, and that end up getting bitten. So I would say, just to close on this, on your way between 30 and 40, by now you should know what you want to do. And your 30s are your chance to find out if you're good at it enough to make a living at it. If you find something you really love and you can make a living at it, Chris, then by God, by all means, follow that as hard as you can, because if you get that kind of job, you'll never work again. I've been doing this for 12 years, but I haven't, and I've had my own office here for 3. I haven't been to work in at least 3 years. At least 3. I probably haven't been to work in 8 years. I haven't had that feeling of, oh my God, it's time to get up and go to work. No, I design my work around what I want to do. And as I always try to say at the beginning and end, or at least at the end of these shows, I owe that to you. I owe that to the people who are watching the show right now. Thank you very much. I try to provide service in exchange for that, and that's up for the market to decide. However, Chris, in your 30s, you're going to find out whether you want to, what the things that you originally thought you were going to do, you're going to find out whether they're working or not. If they are working, for God's sake, stick with them, and then find somebody to marry. If I recall correctly, it was a couple hours ago, your Facebook thumbnail picture was you with the lovely lady, and you looking at each other. And if I got that right, and if it turns out that that you guys are as comfortable in your early 30s as you look in your 20s, then you need to marry that person. But as far as marrying goes, I will say this. You need to have somebody. People talk about, should they be common interests? Should they be completely different interests? Should they be, what about blah, blah, blah? Late in life, I discovered, very late in life, like, 12:30 this afternoon, something like that, that the most important thing, the single most important thing in the person you're going to marry, I think, is, do you respect them or not? That's really it. Because if you respect them, then if you respect them, you're not tempted. If you respect them, then you're not tempted. If you don't respect them, then it's going to show. And if you don't respect somebody who you marry, you're going to show it in little ways. You're going to make a mess out of things, and you're not going to, be the kind of guy you want it to be. Or if you're a woman, you won't be doing all the things that you know you could do to make your husband happy, but you don't do it because you don't respect him. And basically, when you don't respect somebody, subconsciously you start putting up these little balloons, and you sort of set these invisible balloons around, and you wait for somebody to pop them. And when they don't get popped, then you get more and more angry, and you set more and more balloons and more standards. So people, I've seen this so many times, couples or people will destroy each other because, just take the case of a man or woman, for example. If this woman thinks that this man is somewhat weak, and she'll put a specific emotional problem in his face. Maybe she'll yell at him or something. Or maybe if she wants to get my attention, maybe she'll yell at him in public in front of his friends. And if he takes that and doesn't say anything about it, then she'll put up something even more outrageous. And if he takes that, and after 3 or 4 steps he keeps walking backwards, and at no point ever, he never sits down and says to her, this is going to stop now because I will not tolerate this. So if you want to continue this relationship, you will stop doing this. You will never, ever embarrass me in front of my friends again. If I did something wrong or awful, we can talk about it in private. I'm perfectly happy to admit that I was wrong, and I'm perfectly happy to have an argument, but you will never insult me in front of my friends again. We understand this? They're looking for that, and that's somebody you respect. And you need to respect the person you're going to marry, because marrying in the 30s is really important. If you got married in your 20s and you're still married, you got lucky, because people change enormously between their 20s and their 30s. But the main thing is, do you respect this person? And then, Chris, the other thing is, this has to be mutual. You have to ask yourself, what can you do to make all of those dreams that your wife had in her 20s come true? What does she want in the world? Not just for you or for the couple or for the relationship. What does she want? What does she want? Does she want to be a housewife and a mom? That's great. Does she want to be a dancer? Does she want to be a painter? Whatever it is, you got to find out what she wants. And you got to do everything you can to make that happen. And she has to do the same for you. And then when you find yourself with a teammate like that, it gets an awful lot easier. Trust me, an awful lot easier. So what a profoundly adult, mature, thoughtful question. And as I say, Chris, I'm not worried about you at all. So let's move on.